me just being bored and falling asleep in church and just not like feeling that calling from the Catholic way, let's say, of doing things, and also being forced to go to church and all that, like this is not cutting it for me. I wasn't with the best people and like drugs and drinks and like women and all this, and then I kind of like, you know what, this is not ideal. So then I kind of started connecting again with God, but then my own way. The reason that I got more connected to my spirituality was because entrepreneurship is so challenging that it almost forces you to have something that you can rely on that is bigger than yourself. Right before turning 30, I met Stephanie Jaie. And that was a big shift for me. Like, I finally found somebody that could explain spirituality to me in a way that was grounded.
You mentioned like earlier, like polarities and like learning about yourself and like kind of getting this. I guess for you, were you always a deeply spiritual person, or is this something like newer that you've come into? And like, can you walk us through like that journey of like where your spirituality was to how you got to this current understanding?
So starting, as far as I can remember, my family is very Christian, like very Catholic. So learning about God and spirituality that way, it was something that was a thing since I have use of my memory, right? So me just being bored and like falling asleep in church and just not like feeling that calling from the Catholic way, let's say, of doing things, and also being forced to go to church and all that, like I just kind of like, you know, this is not cutting it for me. But I didn't want to stop being spiritual. Maybe at some point, like, you know, when you start going to college and you start learning all these things and all that, like I kind of was like, am I an atheist? Like, am I agnostic? I mean, who am I? Like, you know, you start just kind of like, you start living, you know, I started living alone at 18. And I'm surrounded by like science and math because I was studying engineering, and all these people, all this influence are just like from professors to alumni, right? Like to all these friends, all these things that you start questioning everything, right? Like you're alone for the first time, all that. But then I slowly was like, look, I kind of like got like, I wasn't with the best people and like, you know, drugs and drinks and like women and all this. And then I kind of like, you know what, this is not ideal. So then I kind of started connecting again with God, but then my own way. It was like, look, and then with psychedelics too, like you become really spiritual because you're like, whoa, like you start perceiving more than you can see. And you're like, there's no way that there's no more than this, right? And so psychedelics definitely was a big thing. So mushrooms for me was a big opener for the spirituality. In a non-religious way. And so from there, I guess that kind of was my first awakening, let's call it. And then
is that like mid-20s? Like how old are you when that's happening?
No, sooner, like 20, maybe flat. Like,
okay, cool.
You know, maybe 1920. Because it wasn't my first year freshman, but it was like my second or third. So
got it.
You know, then so like I'm there, like the first awakening in my, you know, 19 or 20. Then from there I kind of kept about with the same awakening, kind of trying to you know, get deep into it, and like psychedelics, but then how can I just not, you know, depend on these things and look for other ways. And from there, like then I didn't really progress a lot up until I started becoming an entrepreneur. So I became an entrepreneur. What was it, like at 28? I think it was like at 28. So right, like, so, you know, there's a big chunk, almost 10 years, right? That goes by, like at least 8 years minimum. And the reason that I got more connected to my spirituality was because entrepreneurship is so challenging that it almost forces you to have something that you can rely on, right? That is bigger than yourself, because you're falling apart, because like so many things that you have to take account for, and then you start hiring people, and then you're dealing with yourself, and now you gotta deal with people, right? It's while you're trying to sell people, and then So there's so much into that goes, it takes a toll on you mentally, energetically, that I was like, look, I need to connect more. So I was looking actively. I was like, how? And then I started with like manifestation people, and then like I was like, should I, like, I want to give a chance again to more Christianity, and but not going Catholic, but talk like learning about Jesus and learning about that Christianity without having to be attached to religion, but also like what else is out there, like Buddhism and all that. So I was just kind of curious. I was just looking, and it wasn't until, I mean, I found some people that got me some things here and there, but it wasn't like a true like big awakening up until right before turning 30. I met Stephanie Jaie, and that was a big shit for me. Like, it was, I finally found somebody that could explain spirituality to me in a way that was grounded. So a lot of mixing metaphysics with real physics and biology and anatomy, and that combination helped me really visualize it and really start believing in it. Because I mean, you hear all these woo things and you're like, I want to believe in it, but if I can't visualize it, it's hard for me to just take words for it. But then when you start getting it grounded, it's like, oh, so okay, physically, your biology, this is what's happening. And then like if we go spirituality, energetically, this is what's happening. So that connection was a thing that really made it more real for me, and then got me more interested in start implementing things and just getting deeper into it.
Do you remember what it was that like Steph said or taught you in particular that like really like clicked for you, where like, oh, this is what makes sense, like this is what's resonating? At
least the first thing that comes to mind, and I think is the phrase of first of all, like, let me give you a little bit of context. Like, I think that I've come to realize that a lot of people come through different doors into the spiritual realm. Like, and to give context to that is my door. To give an example, like my door was the sexual energy, because I consider myself a very sexual person, but I was in a relationship where I had sex all the time and it was good, but it came to a point that it wasn't fulfilling me, and I started to question, am I wrong for wanting more? Because my partner at the time, she was like, oh, you always want more and more and more, and not just on the sexual part, on everything. Like, it was just like, I'm a guy that was like always trying to improve, and I'm always, of course I want more. Like, I can reach this level, I want to go to the next level. But being with her made me question. I mean, look, I'm not gonna blame her. Am I wrong? So I'm gonna look for help. And the door that really, like, when I met Steph, and she calls herself the Erotic Alchemist. I started learning about what alchemy is, transforming bad to good, right? Like negative into positive, or like pain into magic, right? Like there's different ways that they're put onto it, but it's that transformation of energy. But then she focused on that erotic energy. And because I came to her, because the thing, I guess the last drop that I was willing to look for help was on that sexual thing. Because I was like, am I wrong for liking anal? Like, is that wrong? Like, am I wrong? Am I fucked up? Like, is it porn fucked me, or blah, blah, blah? Like, I started looking for this thing, saying she gave me two major things. The first one was when she told me that the sexual energy was the most powerful energy in the world, the only one that creates life. So if you can use different energies to manifest, you can leverage energies, why not use the most powerful one in the world, which is a sexual energy? And I was like, damn, you're right. Like, and this makes sense. I mean, everybody that I see, every single human, and like even animals, like they're here because of, even plants, they have a sexual thing. Like there's the male and female and all that. Like they exist, those polarities. So that was a simple phrase that would got me to things like, like makes sense that if I'm gonna prioritize learning about energies and what energy to use, should be this one when I'm also very passionate about it. So like I feel like I have so much sexual energy, so why not harness it for good? Which, you know, that's where the alchemy comes into play.
Beautiful.